So who has been your favorite person to interview?
Well, again, it goes back to those long interviews I was telling you about. I really enjoyed, I spent 2 days with Shania Twain, going to Timmins, her hometown. But I also really like a guy like George Clooney. And I think what it comes down to is the more honest the person, the better, the more satisfying the interview. There are certain starlets out there, for example, that I really wouldn't care to interview ever. And in some cases ever again. And one of the reasons is that I don't think they know where the truth ends and their PR begins. And in a lot of cases, they've done things that they're either not proud of or don't want to publicize, or the manner in which they achieve things is not the way they want people to know about it. Like, did they write their own song? Did they write their own book? Are they hands-on with their clothing line and so on? And they want the public to see it a certain way, but that's not really how it happened. And so you don't get honest answers out of people. You don't get anything that would be satisfying to an interviewer. You know, you end up being, okay, here, I'll give you a concrete answer. I don't care what Paris Hilton has to say about charity. I don't. She's never done a lick of charity. She says she wants to. I don't care what her thoughts are. Now, she's entitled to her thoughts, and there are a lot of people out there that want to hear her thoughts. I don't want to be the person who facilitates getting her word out. So you find somebody else to do it. I'm not interested in being that person. Now, there are other people, and it's not that she's not to be taken seriously. There are plenty of people out there who aren't to be taken seriously that I still want to chat with. But I don't want to be fed a line. And I certainly don't want to swallow it. So,
what's the hardest part about being in this industry?
I think the hard... Well, I really like what I do, so I don't really view a lot of it as hard. At some point, at certain points, there's... there might be a conversation that you'll have with your producers over a story about whether or not you want to be part of a story. We've had those, but that's sort of the fun of doing this show, where you have, well, I view our show this way and somebody else views it a different way, and you have a debate over what it means. And the travel could be viewed as difficult because you leave your family, but I like to travel, and I part of the job is to go to these wonderful events. I think you want to take it seriously, but it's not always serious. I think you got to be proud of what you do. I think the second you start doing things that you're not proud of, I'm sure that would eat away. But as far as hard, there are challenges, but there are challenges to every job. So I don't think I could point to one thing and say that's the hardest thing. I enjoy every aspect of the job. Besides getting called away to emergency voiceovers, which are never emergencies. That's it. I wouldn't qualify anything as particularly hard, and I think it's because I've also been here long enough that I've helped craft the show. Part of it is a reflection of me, and that I've been the host since day one. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is a reflection of me, I think. And nothing. There's not a big part of the show I would change. I mean, there are aspects of it, but again, that's part of the watching the show grow and picking your battles and learning to live with certain things so that you can build on others. There's. My dad told me a long time ago when I got into TV. He said, "Keep your eyes and your ears open because you're about to get a PhD in television." And I've been doing this for 10 years now, so there's nothing in us at Ryerson. Ryerson can't teach me anything about my job that I don't already know at this point. I didn't go to school for this, but I'm pretty qualified to do it at this point. And I did, and I learned a lot about TV, how you make TV, but also sort of the stuff in the background, the business of it. It's I've learned a lot. And right now we're sort of going through a new phase with a new owner. The Bell bought CTV, and so that's a whole new phase that we're learning about right now.
Where's been your favorite place to travel?
My favorite place to travel,
I guess through your job.
Yeah, let me think about that. I don't know. I mean, there's the Oscar red carpet every year. It's so exclusive, and it's really a test of all your skills. I would say that. I mean, there's some exotic places as well, but for me, it's the Oscar red carpet. Not a lot of people get to do it. CTV, because we are the Canadian broadcaster, We are in a very privileged position on the carpet because ABC is the host broadcaster, and then we are the only other broadcaster, so we're right next to them. So we're the second broadcaster on the red carpet. Everybody else is behind us, and so that we get to punch way above our weight class in that case. And then what's really fun about it is, okay, you're tethered to one spot. You got one camera. You've got people screaming on this side, people screaming on this side. The carpet is about 50 feet deep. You're live from the moment you go up to the moment you go down 3 hours later, and you have no idea who you're going to get.
Wow.
And you don't. And when you get them, you don't know what mood they're going to be in. And you might try to get somebody, but Ryan Seacrest is right there. Maybe he has a relationship with them. Maybe they're going to pass you by. And you have to do this nonsense. You got to talk about sometimes movies you don't know. Sometimes a producer shows up, you have no idea who that person is, and so it tests your skills as a sort of in television. How can you handle a curveball? How can you handle? What happens if Oprah shows up and you're right about to go into a commercial break, and your producer is saying, "Hold her because you got to go into a commercial break." You got to hold her for 3 minutes while everybody else wants her. You have to beg her, hold her hand, and beg her to stay so that when you come back from the commercial break, welcome back, we're with Oprah. These are things that, and you can't see them coming until they happen. What happens when you're on the red carpet and there's 35 minutes left in the carpet and there are no more stars? That happened 2 years ago. We looked down the carpet and there was nobody left. And we looked in the camera, like, we're in a commercial break, and I told my producer, I was like, I don't know what to tell you. There's nobody left. They didn't pace the carpet properly, the arrivals properly. And so we had to tap dance. Tanya was in another location, and we just had to banter for about 35 minutes. Throwing to taped pieces, hoping to God people wouldn't change the channel. So that's why that's my favorite thing to do.
What has been your worst red carpet experience?
Well, there would be two. Those would be twofold. There are two stories. One was the Oscars 2 years ago, because that was when the economy got really bad, right? And we still had to put on our show, so we went down with a really bare bones. We did the minimum we possibly could, and it really threw us for a loop. We had a lot of new people doing sort of jobs down there, and it just wasn't. It ended up not being the show we all wanted it to be. We totally made up for it this year, but that was unsatisfying. When you put that much work into something, and I think everyone would agree. I think everybody dropped the ball a little bit, but we did the best with what we had. Like at the time, it was either that or no show, right? Because budgets were being slashed and people were being laid off, and the fact we even did a show was a testament to how good the people are around here. So that would be the first thing, and the other thing would have been. When I called Russell Peters Russell Simmons. That was an awesome one. Someone told me weeks earlier, don't call him Russell Simmons. Ben, don't screw that. And then what's like, don't think of a pink elephant. What do you think he had?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it was in my head. And I didn't just introduce him though. Like I didn't just say his name. It's at the top of the Juno red carpet. I introduced him like Def Comedy Jam style. It was really embarrassing because it was the opening shot of the red carpet, and then when you give a stand-up comic like an opening like that, he's going to bash your soul in, and that's what he did for a year. And fortunately, he hosted again the next year, and I thought, how can I make up for this? We're going to have to reference it. And then, again, we had a debate with the producers. Are you going to reference it, Ben? Like, what if people don't remember? Maybe you should just let it go. And I said, no, of course I'm going to do it, because first of all, we have to assume people watched our show last year. And if they watched last year, we have to assume they're going to watch this year. And so if I can turn it around, so what I did is I introduced him as Richard Simmons. So I went from Russell Peters to Russell Simmons to Richard Simmons. And that was like, at least in my own mind, last year's screw-up has now become a setup to this year's joke. And so I thought I made up for it, but he still ribs me every chance he gets. So, but it's live TV. Listen, my co-host Thea Andrews, on her last red carpet with us at the Junos in Ottawa, asked Jeff Healey. Remember the late Jeff Healey? Great. He's a blind guitarist, phenomenal artist. And she asked, God love her. She asked him who he was excited to see that night. He's blind. Yeah. Now I know that's an expression. She didn't mean it literally, but the guy gave her crap. She felt really bad. So anyway. So it happens. It's live TV. You're going to use the wrong word. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to ask somebody how their wife is, and then later on you're going to find out their wife passed away 6 months earlier. I mean, it happens. Stuff like that happens.